In the heart of Los Angeles, the stage lights blazed down on the set of Family Feud, the air thick with excitement and anticipation. The audience buzzed with palpable energy, but little did they know that on this day, everything would shift dramatically. It was a typical Friday afternoon in the studio, the kind that promised laughter and friendly competition, where families from across the nation come to showcase their quirks and camaraderie. But on this day, a storm was brewing beneath the surface, one that would send shockwaves through the entire production. "Welcome back to Family Feud," Steve Harvey exclaimed, his charismatic smile lighting up the studio. Dressed in his signature tailored suit, he had always been the embodiment of charm and humor, effortlessly guiding contestants through rounds of questions that brought out their best, and sometimes their worst. But behind that facade of confidence lay the weight of his own burdens, ones he seldom shared with the audience. Today, however, he felt an unsettling disquiet in his gut, a gnawing sense that something was off. In one corner of the stage stood the Ramirez family, led by the boisterous matriarch, Teresa Ramirez, a fiery woman with a heart of gold and a tongue that could cut glass. Her laughter could fill a room, but the tension between her and her daughter, Sofia Ramirez, a college student fresh from a bitter breakup, hung heavy in the air. Sofia, with her shoulder-length black hair and piercing green eyes, wore a mask of forced smiles, hiding the turmoil brewing within her. The audience could sense it, a palpable tension, an electric undercurrent that seemed to sizzle with each passing moment. The first round commenced, and as the questions flowed, the Ramirez family stumbled through their answers, the bond between them fraying with each failed attempt. Steve's laughter echoed, but for Sofia, it felt hollow. She seemed lost, her mind elsewhere, distracted by thoughts that spiraled around her recent heartbreak. The heat of the stage felt unbearable, and as the game progressed, the cracks in their familial facade grew wider. "All right, let's see if you can redeem yourselves," Steve said cheerfully, looking at Sofia with the same infectious smile he wore for every contestant. But today, his smile felt strained, almost rehearsed. He could see the shadows in her eyes, the sadness that threatened to engulf her, but he didn't know how to reach her. The game was nearing its climax when Steve posed the next question, a seemingly simple one. "Name something you might find in your grandmother's house." The audience held its breath, ready to erupt in laughter. But when Sofia stepped up to the podium, the tension was ripe for a breakthrough. Her mind raced, but instead of answers, words of frustration and disappointment spilled forth. "I don't want to be here," she blurted out, her voice rising above the studio noise, cutting through the laughter like a knife. It was raw, unfiltered, and utterly unexpected. A wave of silence swept through the audience, as every eye turned to Sofia, astonished. Even Steve was taken aback, his jovial demeanor faltering. Sofia, let's keep it light, okay?" he said, attempting to steer her back into the light-hearted banter that had characterized the show thus far. But the moment was electric, a point of no return, and the weight of her words hung heavy in the air. "No!" Sofia shouted, her voice trembling with emotion. "You don't understand. I'm tired of pretending everything is okay. My life is falling apart, and I'm here playing games like I don't even care." The tension in the studio was at its breaking point. Steve's smile vanished, replaced by genuine concern as he locked eyes with her. "What's going on?" he asked, leaning closer, breaking the fourth wall in a way that nobody anticipated. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was real, and the audience sensed it. A profound moment unfolding right before their eyes. The silence was deafening. Was this part of the show, or had a crack formed in the carefully constructed world of entertainment? The cameras zoomed in, capturing the raw emotion that spilled out from Sofia. "I feel like I'm losing my family. My parents are splitting up, and I can't even talk to anyone about it." Her voice wavered, breaking the dam of feelings she had built around herself. I came here hoping for some fun, but all I feel is pain. I don't even know who I am anymore." The audience gasped collectively, their faces a mixture of shock and empathy. Steve was visibly taken aback, his own heart racing as he realized the magnitude of the moment. He had certainly dealt with contestants who exhibited vulnerability before, but never had he been faced with such a raw display of hurt from someone who was supposed to be having fun. Sophia's words hung in the air, a heavy fog that clouded the studio. The laughter that had filled the room moments before dissipated like smoke, leaving behind an intimate gathering of souls who had momentarily forgotten they were part of a television spectacle. The studio had gone from a place of joviality to one of heartbreaking honesty in the blink of an eye, and Steve, the ever-competent host, suddenly found himself at a loss. His instinct to keep the show flowing collided with the reality of the situation. He had to say something, to do something, but what could he say to a girl in crisis? As Sophia's shoulders trembled, tears cascading down her cheeks, Steve felt the weight of the world rest on him. This was not just a game anymore. It was a chance to give voice to the voiceless, to address the pain that so many families faced behind closed doors. But would he step forward? Would he reach out to her, even if it meant stepping away from the script? In that moment of silence, the atmosphere shifted. The studio went from a bustling arena of entertainment to a sanctuary, a space where vulnerability thrived. And with that, the viewers, both in the studio and at home, leaned in closer, hungry for what would unfold next. Would Steve be able to break the chains of expectation and truly connect with Sophia? What would happen next as the cameras captured this profound moment of truth? Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would take them all far beyond the confines of the game show stage. A journey that would unravel the very fabric of their lives and reshape their understanding of family, heartache, and the healing power of connection. As the studio fell into a tense silence, Sophia felt the weight of the cameras bearing down on her. Every eye in the audience focused on the moment her heart lay bare. She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the flood of emotions washing over her. "Steve, it's not just a game to me," she finally said, her voice trembling slightly but resolute. "This is my life, my family, my dreams." Steve Harvey, ever the master of charm and humor, was momentarily lost for words. This was not what the producers had scripted. The game show was about fun, laughter, and light-hearted competition, not the raw, unfiltered pain that Sophia was prepared to unleash. But as he looked into her eyes, he realized that, perhaps, this was exactly what was needed. "I understand that, Sophia," Steve replied, his tone softening, though his expression remained a careful mix of concern and disbelief. "But you signed up for this. You came here for the game to win. You can't let your heart get in the way." "It's not about the game anymore," Sophia shot back, her voice rising with emotion. The tension in the studio thickened, the audience now fully engaged in this unexpected confrontation. "Don't you see? This is my chance to change everything for my family, to show them that we can break free from the pain. I thought," she paused, blinking back tears, "I thought you would understand." Steve's brow furrowed. He hadn't anticipated this level of vulnerability. This was supposed to be an entertaining afternoon, a light-hearted escape for everyone involved. Now he felt the ground shift beneath him. The laughter of the audience had faded, replaced by an almost palpable concern, as if they were all collectively holding their breath. "Sophia, I get it. I really do." His voice dropped, sincere yet tinged with uncertainty. "But you have to play the game. You have to follow the rules. That's how this works." Sophia leaned in, her eyes piercing through the facade of the seasoned host. "And what if the rules are what got me into this mess in the first place? What if the game is just a distraction from the truth? Don't you want to help me find that truth?" For a brief moment, the studio was enveloped in an electric silence, the kind of silence that seemed to stretch out, wrapping around every heart beating in the room. Steve stood there, caught off guard, his mind racing. He had always been the one in control, guiding contestants with a blend of humor and authority. But now he felt the tide turning. "Sophia, listen." "No, you listen," she interrupted, her voice sharp yet filled with desperation. "You stand up there. You make everyone laugh. But what do you really know about pain? About struggling to put food on the table? About being afraid that your family might fall apart? I thought you were someone I could count on. Someone who would understand the stakes of this moment." As the words hung in the air, Steve felt his chest tighten. He had always seen himself as a mentor, a source of laughter and comfort. But what Sophia said struck a chord deep within him. The audience remained glued to the unfolding drama, their own breaths held tightly. "Are you telling me that I don't understand?" Steve asked, his voice breaking slightly. The audience could sense the shift, a crack in the armor of the charismatic host that they had grown to adore. "Yes, Steve, that's exactly what I'm saying," Sophia replied, her heart pounding as the intensity of her emotions surged forward. "You've never been in my shoes. You've never fought for a life that seems to be slipping through your fingers. The rules of your game mean nothing when your soul is crying out for connection. I'm here because I need you to see me, to truly see me." Steve felt a knot form in his stomach. This was not just about the game or entertainment anymore. It was a confrontation with his own understanding of reality. He had always prided himself on his ability to empathize, but now, standing face to face with Sophia, he was painfully aware of the gap between their experiences. The atmosphere in the studio was electric, with the audience now leaning forward, captivated by the raw tension between Steve Harvey and Sophia. Some were holding back tears, while others were exchanging glances that spoke volumes of support for the young woman who had bravely laid bare her soul. "Is this really how you want to play the game, Sophia?" Steve pressed, his voice steady yet vulnerable. "Because if you think I'm going to break the rules for you, you're wrong. We can't just throw everything away because of one moment of desperation." Sophia felt her cheeks flush with anger and sorrow. "It's not desperation, Steve. It's hope. Hope that there's something more than just a game in front of us." She turned to the audience. "Isn't that why you all tuned in today? To see something real? To feel something beyond just the superficial?" The audience murmured in agreement, a wave of energy shifting in favor of Sophia. She could see it, the flicker of understanding in their eyes, the empathy burning in their hearts. But Steve, ever the pragmatist, felt the walls closing in. "What you're asking for, Sophia, would be a gamble, a risk for both of us. Do you really think I can just throw away the show?" "No!" she shouted, cutting him off once again, her frustration spilling over. "I'm not asking you to throw anything away. I'm asking you to open your heart. You have the power to change someone's life right here, right now. And instead, you're clinging to the structure of a game that doesn't even begin to measure the complexity of human emotion." An electric charge filled the air, pulsating between them. For the first time, Steve felt a flicker of uncertainty. Perhaps he thought the game was not meant to be played like this. Perhaps it was time to step outside the confines of expectation and embrace something truly transformative. He took a deep breath, the weight of his own carefully crafted persona beginning to crack. "What if I want to help you, Sophia? What if I want to step outside the framework of this show to really connect?" There was a moment of hesitation, the audience collectively holding their breath, waiting for what would happen next. Would Steve Harvey, the king of the game show, relinquish his control for something deeper, something that could change the lives of everyone in that room? As the tension in the studio reached a boiling point, Sophia looked directly into Steve's eyes, searching for a flicker of truth behind his usually charming facade. "You have to decide, Steve. Will you choose the game or the heart?" In that moment, the stakes rose higher than anyone could have anticipated. Sophia's heart raced as Steve Harvey stood before her, the air heavy with anticipation. All eyes in the studio were fixed on the two of them, a fragile silence settling around the once bustling set. The weight of her question lingered like a live wire, crackling with potential energy. She had challenged him, and in doing so, she placed his very essence on the line. "The game or the heart?" she had said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. Steve's expression shifted, a flicker of uncertainty breaking through his confident facade. The man who was known for his quick wit and unshakable demeanor now appeared vulnerable, as if he were looking into the depths of a mirror that reflected not just his image but his choices. He began, the words caught in his throat. The studio lights blazed down on him, illuminating the beads of sweat forming on his brow. He looked to the camera, the audience, and then back to Sophia, searching for the right words, the right answer. "I've always believed that to win, you have to play by the rules. But maybe those rules don't fit everyone." A collective gasp rippled through the audience. A moment of reckoning. Sophia's breath caught in her throat, the enormity of Steve's admission not lost on her. He was vulnerable, raw, exposing a part of himself that he had kept hidden beneath layers of charisma and bravado. "You're right," Sophia said softly, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "We're not playing a game. We're living our lives." As she spoke, the room seemed to contract, focusing on the intimate space between her and Steve. "What matters is how we treat each other, not the trophies we collect." Steve nodded slowly, his usual bravado replacing itself with humility. "I've been so focused on the show, the spectacle, I forgot about the people." The audience fell silent again, a palpable shift in the energy as they absorbed the weight of his realization. "Can you see what this pressure does to people like me, Steve? There's more at stake than just winning," Sophia pressed, her voice rising steadily. "You talk about dreams, but what about the nightmares we live?" In that moment, the facade of the entertainment industry began to crack, revealing the human connection at its core. Steve stepped closer, his voice softening. "Sophia, I want to understand. I want to help you share your story, your voice." Tears glistened in Sophia's eyes, an emotional dam breaking. "Then be brave enough to show that side of yourself too. You're not just a host. You're a guide. Show us the way." In a decision that shocked everyone, Steve extended his hand toward Sophia, his gesture a bridge spanning the divide between them. "Then let's create something together. Let's share our stories, our truths." The audience erupted, applause filling the studio, resonating with the relief and recognition of a truth finally acknowledged. As the program concluded, the immediate repercussions were electric. Hours later, the studio buzzed with energy, an unprecedented collaboration unfolding before everyone's eyes. Social media exploded with clips of Steve Harvey's heartfelt conversation with Sophia. Tweets and posts flooded in, celebrating the authenticity, the emotional depth that had emerged during the broadcast. Viewers felt a profound connection, as if they had witnessed a cathartic release. Sophia received messages from people who resonated with her journey, who felt seen and heard for the first time. Over the following months, the impact of their newfound partnership deepened. Sophia found herself invited to share her story on various platforms, gaining a following that championed her narrative. Steve, too, shifted the focus of his shows, introducing segments dedicated to personal stories of struggle and resilience rather than mere competitions and games. His audience began to recognize the power of vulnerability, leading to discussions that had previously been avoided. In her own life, Sophia discovered a renewed sense of purpose. She reconnected with her family, rebuilding bridges that had been weakened by years of isolation and emotional turmoil. The conversations became more profound, the laughter more genuine. She began to see her own worth, no longer defined by a sense of defeat but embraced by the love and support of her loved ones. Years passed, and the profound shift in their lives echoed into the future. Sophia became a key figure in a movement that encouraged authentic storytelling and emotional bravery. She published a book detailing her experiences, which quickly became a bestseller, resonating with readers across demographics. The lessons she learned and shared inspired countless others to embrace their vulnerabilities, leading to a surge of compassion and understanding within their communities. Steve Harvey, on the other hand, evolved from being merely a game show host into a cultural icon who prioritized the human experience over entertainment. His shows continued to thrive, but now they held a deeper significance, weaving together stories that celebrated the essence of humanity's struggles and triumphs. He remained in the public eye, but his image transformed into that of a mentor, a guide who encouraged others to be brave in their own lives. As the years turned into a decade, Sophia and Steve's collaboration became a landmark moment in television history, a turning point that redefined how stories were shared and the impact they had on individuals. Sophia often reflected on that defining moment. The confrontation that had once felt insurmountable had blossomed into a partnership that changed the lives of many. In the quiet moments of her life, Sophia would find herself smiling at the thought of her journey, the unexpected twist that had turned the tide in her favor. She had never anticipated that a single moment of vulnerability could lead to such profound changes, not just for herself but for an entire community. The heart had triumphed over the game, and in the end, it was the connection forged between people that mattered most.